First, I was like very excited, very happy, like, yes, this is it. I'm going to be rich and successful. I did it. But then after that, NFTs were not my niche. Do I niche down into NFTs and kind of like ride this momentum and like follow this to wherever it goes? Or do I keep creating the type of content that I was creating before that I enjoyed making, but that wasn't really getting picked up, that wasn't really being successful on YouTube?
Welcome to The Inner Creator with Peter Su, a podcast dedicated to helping creative entrepreneurs learn more about the art and business of being a creator. Today, we're going to talk about how to balance and integrate passion versus virality, how to grow a community on YouTube and Twitter, and when it's time to quit and move on, by interviewing Aprilynne Alter, the viral NFT girl on YouTube that decided to leave it all behind, her 22,000 subscribers, to pursue her passion of helping new YouTubers make educational content. Can you just kind of take us through that journey of how you even got into YouTube? Almost even starting at like when you were in Wall Street.
Way back. We're taking it way back. Okay. So I went to college for a hospitality program, but like the vast majority of the graduates from my program didn't go into hospitality operations. They went into finance. And so like I came in and I saw everyone else going into finance and I'm like, okay, well, I should also go into finance. Like that's what everyone else is doing. That means that it should probably be what I'm doing too. So I kind of like went into that track and, got the internships and did the interviews and I landed in Wall Street. But once I was there with my full-time offer, I realized that like, crap, this sucks. Like this just really, really, really sucks. And I was there. I remember it was like a Friday at like 7 p.m. And I was on a call with one of my directors and she had been, working at the bank for like decades and she has a family. And I was just realizing like, man, it's 7 p.m. on a Friday night and you're on this call with me and you've been just like busting your butt for years to get to this position of power in this company, but you're still here with like an entry-level analyst at 7 p.m. on a Friday. And this like light went off in my head of like, man, if this is what success looks like in this company, I don't want to be here. I don't want that to be my future. I don't want to keep grinding up this ladder to only to be on a call on 7 p.m. on a Friday with an analyst. And kind of like this light bulb went off in my head of like, okay, well, this ain't it. This is not going to work out for me. And I remember I was like having this like big internal struggle previously to that when I was like considering if I should take a full-time offer from the bank, from Citi, versus like also had a full-time offer from a startup that I worked for. And I was like receiving a lot of like information from people and advice. And I remember watching this one speech. I think it was like some sort of like commencement speech or like convocation speech from someone at Harvard. And the main takeaway from that was like quit often and quit early and the value of quitting. And so there I was after this call at a 7 p.m. on a Friday, and I made the decision to quit my job on Wall Street. Now I'm like glossing over a lot of the things. I'm sure we'll get there. And so I quit my job. I had been working on like my own thing on the side for some time during that part. So I decided to go full time on that. I had like a service that connected students with internships at startups. So I went full time on that. And at the same time, I wasn't really one to put like all of my eggs in one basket. I had like learned about the idea of like small bets, put different eggs in different baskets, try out a lot of things, increase your surface area for luck. So I was like, okay, I'm not just going to do this. I'm going to also try to do other things. I had a friend who told me, hey, if you want to build startups, the best place to be is on Twitter. You'll meet a lot of other really smart people who are also building startups. So I started a Twitter account and I started to like grow my audience on Twitter. Meanwhile, I had also listened to a podcast featuring Ali Abdaal And I was like, this whole YouTube thing seems really interesting. I had never considered YouTube before, like in my life. I was not an on-camera person at all. I was not like an in public person at all. But I was like, I like bias to action, might as well like try something new. And like, best case scenario, it works out. Worst case scenario, it doesn't work out, but at least you learn something to enable you to do like cooler and newer things in the future. So I started a new YouTube channel. I was posting like one video per week for a while. And then eventually one of my videos got picked up. And my channel kind of blew up. And I guess I'll stop there. I don't know if that was like a good enough overview. I glossed over a lot of it.
What would you say were some of the best things you did to grow your channel? And then what would you say would be some lessons that you learned from that experience too?
First thing I did was simply, upload once per week. I feel like that's the advice that everyone hears when they're just starting out. Try to get one video out per week, and be consistent with that. So I was being very consistent with my content. I tried a couple of different things, not that many things. My first couple of videos were kind of about startup life and interning at a startup and kind of like what that was like. And they weren't really doing very well. So I kind of switched the content into some of the content that I was doing well on Twitter, which was like how-to Twitter content. But they also weren't doing very well on YouTube because apparently no one on YouTube cares how to grow an audience on Twitter. People like to say platform native. So the one video, I guess like then came the video that now has the most views on my channel, the video that got me monetized, the video that kind of like hoisted me up into getting into the crypto niche. And a lot of things I did differently for this video. First of all, like I completely changed the way I was doing my titles and my thumbnails, completely re-engineered them. I followed like a title format that was recommended to me, which is like how to blank without blank, which for me was like how to build an NFT, how to make an NFT collection without experience. I really, really, really worked on my thumbnail so that my thumbnail and my title kind of like work together to tell a story. Within the video itself, I changed my lighting, I changed my framing, I learned how to edit for that video. I was using like very basic editing for my previous videos, but on this video, like I got super deep into all different types of cuts and like text and images and icons and transitions and animations and music and sound effects and color grading and like all of these other things I was really brand new to. It took me 26 or 28 hours to edit that video, like because I was learning all these new things. So that was pretty crazy. But I think the reasons why this video took off for the most part was for a couple of reasons. One, it was a video within a trend. And so if you think about kind of like late 2021, I think it was that, the NFT, like there was like the rise of NFTs and so many people were talking about NFTs and people either loved them or people hated them, but no one could really tell you exactly what they were. And kind of like in the midst of all of this whirlwind of like crypto and NFTs and like what is going on, there wasn't a lot of really good information about NFTs. Most of the YouTube videos about NFTs that existed on YouTube had some sort of like, they were either too technical to understand or they were like promoting something. So there was some sort of like ulterior motive for creating the video because they wanted you to like invest in their NFT. And so I kind of came in with a video, like an educational video about NFTs to help people understand NFTs and help people who are curious about making NFTs, how to make them. But it was very simple. Like I was able to take a lot of the complex terms and put it into terms that like anyone can understand. And I had no ulterior motive. I had nothing that I was promoting myself. So I think like all of these things kind of came within this perfect storm of, okay, I had been consistent on YouTube up until that point. So YouTube kind of trusted me and knew that I was like someone who was legitimate. I wasn't some sort of spammer. I had improved a lot of things for this video. My title and my thumbnail were very, very, very good. And my content represented like a very large gap in the current videos that were on YouTube at that time. And so that's kind of some of the main factors that contributed to this one video getting picked up, and just like got a lot of views from that.
Got it. So it's like improving your title, thumbnail, having them work together, improving I think your actual video, the editing, and then picking a trending topic where there's like not much content of, it's kind of underserved. That's so. I mean, that thing now has like 500,000 views, and then
I think it's like 630,000 now. It's crazy. Yeah.
Like, how did you feel when that video just blew up? Like, because I think from the outside looking in, when we were in PTI, I was like, oh my gosh, Aprilynne was like, we're just classmates, and now all of a sudden she's like this NFT star. Like, I'm curious, like how it felt for you internally.
Yeah. Okay. So like the first reaction was like I was ecstatic, right? I was like, man, like my video was getting picked up. Like I got like my channel got freaking monetized. Like that was insane. And like I had heard of like blowing up on YouTube happening to other people. It was like, it's actually happening to me. Like this is crazy. How is this happening? So at first I was like very excited, very happy, like, yes, this is it. I'm going to be rich and successful. I did it. But then after that, I just kind of came to like, there was this crisis going on, which was that NFTs were not my niche. And so I had like all of these people coming into my channel who were just so interested about NFTs. And they were saying things like, thank you so much for this video. This is the best NFT video on the internet. And like amazing feedback. And I was like, oh man. So I have like these thousands of people coming into my channel who are all following me because they're interested in NFTs. And so I was kind of faced this choice of like, do I niche down to blow up? Do I niche down into NFTs and kind of like ride this momentum and like follow this to wherever it goes? Or do I keep creating the type of content that I was creating before that I enjoyed making, but that wasn't really getting picked up, that wasn't really being successful on YouTube? And that was like a very, very tricky crisis, one that I know that you're dealing with firsthand right now, Peter, because you have a video that's blowing up, which is awesome. But that was like a really, really, really tough decision to make. And I was truly clueless and didn't know what to do. And that was like a pretty scary point. I'm like, I felt like there were so many ways in which I could go wrong. And I didn't want to like kill the momentum that I did have, but I also didn't want to set myself up for creating a ton of content that I didn't want to make.
Yeah, and I love how you kind of bring that misalignment up between what you really wanted and what was doing really well, what like the audience really wanted, and what kind of all the external expectations. Like, how did you ultimately balance that or realign? Because you were, you had you're getting featured on like Business Insider, The Verge. You were in a documentary. You were offered like a $60,000 consulting gig, and you were about to launch an NFT course. Like, it almost seems like a really interesting movie where the protagonist has like an inner conflict, and the deeper they go into it, like the more they're misunderstood for who they are. Like, everyone loves you for something else that you actually aren't aligned with. Like, I definitely have felt that in my career, and even now, like how did you ultimately manage through all that?
I didn't. Yeah, it was weird. I kind of did feel like I was in a movie, because like the amount of opportunities that I got from, it's like a spoiler alert, I ended up niching down into that niche, and kind of became like a rising star within the NFT world. And it was wild. Again, like you mentioned some of the things that was happening. And the weird thing is that every single time I got like a news reporter reaching out to me to interview me, or like crazy consulting offers or anything else, my first reaction is like, oh my gosh, Business Insider is reaching out to me. They're going to feature me. This is incredible. Then my next reaction would be like, but it's about NFTs. Great. Like that's cool. And I 100% felt like, I was definitely succeeding in one definition of the word, but I was not succeeding as myself. It's like I had kind of stepped into this like other persona, and that persona was succeeding. That persona was doing well, but that persona wasn't me. And as this kind of continued for, around 6 months, I just started to feel like my energy levels plummeted. Like I could barely bring myself to make more videos, to do more research to the crypto field, to talk to anybody NFT related. And it was just like, it completely drained me. And I felt like I had lost myself. And I felt, like at my lowest low, I felt enslaved by my audience and by this niche and by this industry. And like, I needed to break out, but I couldn't break out because if I wasn't the NFT girl, then who was I? It was like a really, really, really hard place to be in.
And just hearing your story, I was reflecting on this because I'm making like a pros and cons of banking video. And when I was writing the script, I was like, oh, like if I break success into external success and internal success, I think when I was like back at Goldman, I think I would give myself a 9 out of 10 externally, right? Like there was the prestige, there was the money, but internally I'd give myself probably like a 2 or 3. And then, but when I left finance to do music, to pursue my dream to be a musician in LA, my financial success, I'd probably put it at a 1. My external, maybe like a 6.5, like 7. But my internal, I was like a 9. So it's that tricky. I still struggle with it today. And we were talking about it yesterday. But how do you, like, now that you've kind of gone through these cycles, like what do you think is the best way to balance between and align that external feeling and that internal feeling, like of being kind of the same person versus like a pseudo self?
Yeah. At this point now, I'm pretty non-negotiable, and I have to do what feels in alignment with me. I have to do something that's aligning with my internal goals. And I will not compromise on that because I have already compromised on that twice. First, when I went into Wall Street the first time, and second, when I became an NFT YouTuber. And both times ended badly. So at this point, and I've talked with my therapist a lot about this, because she has seen me go through these cycles. And we talk about this a lot, and me continuing to do what feels like it is in alignment with me, because ultimately, and I truly believe that if you have someone who is capable and smart, if they put all of their efforts into something that is truly in alignment with them, they will get there. They will succeed. It might not be overnight. It might not be immediately, but it will happen at some point, because I truly do believe that there is some sort of power that just comes from doing something that is in alignment with you, and the motivation that you have, the intrinsic motivation that you have to do something. No one can ever beat that if they're just trying to do it extrinsically, if they're just doing that because of external goals. So you have one heck of an unfair advantage if you're doing something because it truly aligns with you that no one else has. And again, that's just what I believe in, and that's what I'm going to follow. And on one hand, it's oh, that sounds great. On the other hand, you have to pay rent. So it's okay, yes, it's difficult. Now it's I'm lucky enough to still have a little bit of runway. Still, I've been making some more money since leaving the NFT world, enough to get me on this new track as I'm starting over, and hopefully see me through at least monetizing on YouTube to get me to that next step. I am taking a risk, and I guess everyone does have different risk tolerances there. I probably have a bit of a higher risk tolerance than most. But also I'm just man, like we're young. Like it's cheesy, but you only live once. We only have so many years of having the kind of like energy and opportunity, maybe like lack of commitment now than we do later. Like for me, like, hey, like I don't have a mortgage. I don't have kids. I don't have anything that's necessarily like tying me down to any one space, financially. So this is probably the only time in my life, the only window of time in my life that I have to pursue what I want to do with this amount of vigor before it gets much, much harder. And I don't want to waste it.
Yeah, you're when I was learning more about all your whole journey to being a creator, I was also reading from figuring out my own kind of niche dilemma, like these essays by Paul Graham, like the Y Combinator, the co-founder, and he had an essay about like should I start a startup in college, and then his advice was sure to answer no. He's met like hundreds of founders and of all ages from different backgrounds, and his whole thing was like, for him in college, you don't just learn just about building a business or getting a job. It's about other things, about like life, relationships, like traveling, seeing the world. And his whole thing was like breadth first, especially when you're younger, and then you can go depth first later. So I was reading that while like researching, like learning about your job. I was like, wow, April is like, it's kind of crazy. You're like a living example of what Steve Jobs talked about, like being the dot connector. Like you just follow your intuition. You're not settling. Like that Stanford speech, whenever I have a hard life decision, I go back and watch that. And sometimes I get emotional watching that speech, and it's just so cool to see that you've been doing that, and now the dots are starting to connect. Like your Twitter banners led to starting an NFT, like who leaves Wall Street to create Twitter banners as a freelancer, and then you started an NFT because you're curious about it, and then your channel blew up, went viral, and now you know so much about YouTube, and now you're helping like people create YouTube channels. It's like now that I'm like looking at, I'm like, oh wow, the dots make sense, but I can only imagine like when you were at these dots and you can't see what's going forward, like it must have been really uncertain. Like how did you feel at those points where you had uncertainty looking forward and you were taking these leaps? And like how did you, like it seems like you have a lot, like you're really brave, like you're able to leave behind things that are stable and go into the unknown. Like what helped you to keep doing that?
Yeah, I really appreciate you saying all of that. I'm going to click this to refocus myself. My camera keeps unfocusing because it's always wild hand gestures. Yeah, and like I agree with you. Looking back, I'm like, oh yeah, this came from that, which came from that, which came from that, which came from that. Oh, it all makes sense. Which feels a lot more cohesive than what it feels like in the moment. And I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing. I kind of mentioned earlier the notion of like bias to action. And that was a piece of advice that was given to me from like an old mentor of mine. He worked at the startup that I used to intern for. And at one point we were having a conversation, and he mentioned like the concept of bias to action. And that just like, it really, really, really resonated with me. I'm like, okay, yeah, like it made sense. And I guess like one thing that helped me kind of get into the right mindset around trying new things is my own definition of failure. And for me, like the opposite of success is not failure. The opposite of success is stagnation. Like I don't ever want to be stagnant and sad. Like that for me, that is like the worst thing ever is if I am sad and I'm stagnant, and there's like no way for me to get out of that like feeling of being unsatisfied and sad in life. I'm like, okay, well, if I keep trying new things, I never really fail unless I stop. Like the only time I really fail is if I stop and become sad and don't move forward anymore. And again, like I do have like a higher risk tolerance than most. So I think that has helped. But also just again, like just the mindset of like just keep going, just keep growing. As long as I'm doing something, I am learning from that. And that enables me to do like the next thing, and then the next thing after that, and the next thing after that. And then 3 years from now, I look back and I'm like, yeah, I did that. I'm where I want to be now because of all of those little things that I did up until this point. I don't know if that's a great answer, but that's kind of how I view things.
Yeah, bias towards action, keep learning, keep adapting, keep going, don't stagnate. Yeah, well, it's. I think one thing that's been challenging for me, and I think a lot of creators, a lot of our creator friends, is balancing or integrating, doing it for doing it for the audience, and also doing it for ourselves. I know in my experience, like when I moved to LA and was pursuing being a singer-songwriter, I wanted to make music that I was proud of, that I loved. But I wasn't really thinking about the audience that much. And then so when I released my album, some people were buying it and were into it, but I think in my mind I was hoping I'd be like like a rock star, like Weezer or Prince or the Beach Boys, people like some of my musical heroes. But I think in some cases, like as an artist, I felt I was expressing myself, but I was hoping that it would connect with people, but I wasn't actually actively thinking about the audience. And now with YouTube, I'm trying to learn from that and have a little more of a balance, like kind of finding like product market fit, basically. Like, do you have any advice on how to balance doing it for the audience and also yourself? Because sometimes like they're not always the same.
Yeah. And like, I guess I have the benefit of coming from like a startup background as well, where like, okay, like, you know, it's not enough to just like build a product and they will come, right? It's like you have to, like the product has to be good. The product has to be good for other people. You have to have people who want your product if you ever want to go anywhere. So I think when I first started my YouTube channel, I guess not as much when I first started it, but definitely so now the second time around as I'm starting it all over again. I definitely think about like who is like my audience and what do they want. And I actually go through this like these like 7 questions that I answer before every single video of mine. And these questions are, and I kind of adapted this from Ali Abdaal when he used to have that as part of like his Notion template, which was for every single video, I answer the questions: who is the character? What do they want? Why can't they get what they want? What are the stakes? Like what happens if they can't get what they want? Who or what helps them? How do they get what they want? And how are they transformed by this experience? And every single time I go to sit down to script out a new long form video, I answer those 7 questions. And it helps like really frame my videos because I can be really excited about a topic because I like the topic. And then I take that topic and I sit down and answer those questions to make sure that I can frame the video and package it in a way that is definitely valuable to the character, to my viewer, because it answers, like it helps them get what they want. So I think you can definitely have both. I think people tend to run into problems when their topic of interest is too far removed away from what their audience wants. That's when you start to get like very conflicting, like, they want this, but I want this. But I think that if you're intentional enough about it, there are ways to kind of like do both, if that makes sense.
Yeah, if you can kind of find that overlap. So like that whole Venn diagram, right? Like I feel like that's so hard sometimes, finding what's like awesome for the audience and also exciting for us as creators. But it's cool to see how that you've done that with your new channel, like helping educational YouTubers. Like, can you take us through how you ultimately landed on that as the sweet spot where it converges on what you're in as where you can really help people and it's what you're excited about?
Yeah, I was like, man, the like in limbo time between me shutting down my old channel to me starting my new channel, a lot happened and nothing happened during that period of time. But one thing that happened was like another existential crisis of mine, which was like, okay, what the heck do I want to do with my life? And I was like, I'm a big person. I'm a big list lover. I like making lists to help me kind of like figure stuff out. I'm ever in a tough place. And so I started making lists of like, what do I like to do? What am I good at? What do other people think that I'm good at? And all these other things. And I realized, okay, like I like making YouTube videos. I really do. I just love the entire process of it. And I'm good at making YouTube videos. My videos that I create are like definitely far above average. My issue was that I didn't know what I wanted to make YouTube videos about. Which is weird because I feel like there are a lot of people who are like, oh yeah, I know I know what I would have a channel about. I just don't know how to do YouTube. And I have the opposite problem. Like I know how to do YouTube. I just don't know what I want to make my channel about. And I knew that I wanted to be very intentional about it because I had experienced what happened last time if you're not intentional. And kind of like the risks there. And I also knew that, hey, like if you're able to like set yourself up that has like in a gap in the market, you're able to set your channel up for success from the very beginning, in a way that is not nearly as like possible or feasible if you're just making random videos when you start out. So then I got to thinking some more. I made some more lists, and I kind of like I guess I developed this like niche selection framework of mine, which is like first we wrote down a list of like all the topics that I was like interested, knowledgeable, or passionate about. And then I went through each of them saying, okay, for each of those topics, do I have enough like interest and knowledge about them to be able to create one long form video about them for a year? Like one long form video per week for a full year. If not, I'd cross them off the list. After that, I think about, okay, do I have some sort of unique advantage in this topic that can really set me apart? If no, I cross off the list. And finally, I would look for, okay, what are the existing channels in this niche on YouTube? Are there any gaps in the type of content that they're creating? And does that gap align with my unique advantage? And so that's eventually kind of how I got into this, which was I liked making YouTube videos. I was good at making YouTube videos. And one, I guess, like compliment that I have received from a good number of people was that they really liked how I could take a complex topic and convey it simply, right? Like I can like just distill a really complex information into a type of story that anyone could understand and resonate with. You know, like, okay, well, that's cool. That's awesome that I can do this. I didn't even realize that I could do this until other people told me. So make sure you tell your friends compliments whenever you can. And I was like, okay, well, like, how can I combine this with YouTube? Which like eventually, again, like through that whole process, I kind of realized, okay, hey, I feel like there are lots of people who exist out there who are experts in something. You know, maybe they've been a software dev for 10 years. Maybe they're a product manager. Maybe they're a professional plumber. Maybe they just know how to like braid hair better than like anyone else. Regardless, everyone has something that they can teach. And I know a lot of people who are interested in like converting that knowledge into like some sort of YouTube channel or content and building a personal brand there. But not a lot of people know how to like take knowledge in brain and turn that into like engaging and educational content. Like, okay, well, can I help them do that? And I have helped people do that before in different ways through like workshops or just like consulting. Like, okay, well, can I turn that into like a full YouTube channel? So that's kind of where I am now.
So wait, when did you launch the channel? I know you have the like a big you have a big hairy audacious goal of
Yes, I do.
how when did you launch, and how do you feel having such a like an intense goal of what, getting monetized in
Yeah.
30 days, right? That is like a mic drop goal right there.
Yeah, that's a very ambitious goal. Feeling a little bit less confident in it now. I launched my channel on the 14th, on April 14th. So today is day 12. And as you said, I put out this like huge goal, this like crazy goal of let's get my channel monetized in 30 days. Which if you don't know, you need 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours in order to be monetized on YouTube. I wasn't concerned about the subscribers part because I felt pretty confident that I could get there. I don't know why I felt confident that I could get there. I think in part it's like, okay, well, I do have an existing Twitter audience. Some of them are interested here. Plus, I've been releasing daily shorts as well. And I know that shorts are a bit better at like getting more subscribers than long form videos are. So I was like, okay, I think I could get to the 1,000 subscriber mark within 30 days. The watch hours are a lot more, they're a lot more tough. Yeah, now, like I had this like, I've been having a lot of existential crises recently. I had another one, not like a full blown one, but I did have like a little breakdown last night where I realized how much pressure I was putting on myself to try to get monetized in this period of time. And it was paralyzing, like to the point where like I've been trying to script a new long form video for days now. And I just like, I've gotten a hook written and that's it, like a hook and an outline. And I'm like, man, why is this so difficult? And part of the reason is like, I've realized that so much of my time is being spent looking at my analytics, like far more than ever before, because I've been obsessing over this goal. And so whenever I would like get stuck in the script writing process, instead of just like sitting there and thinking and then continuing, I would just like quick open up my YouTube dashboard, because I just get this like dopamine hit, I guess, of like seeing number go up. And previously it's like, okay, like I would get that dopamine hit from scripting a video, from accomplishing something. And I'm like, yeah, but it's so much easier to just open YouTube Studio and be like, number go up. Yes. Right. And if the number doesn't go up as quickly as you want, then it's like, oh, like you feel absolutely devastated. You feel heartbroken and like your entire day is ruined. So as of last night, I was like, okay, hey, I understand that I have this goal and I'm still going to try to get there, but I'm not going to like put my everything, like my value and worth as a human being into achieving this goal. I think like, no matter what, I am going to get like, I mean, I know logically like, hey, it's in 14 days. I have almost 300 subscribers. Like that's pretty good. That's pretty good for like a brand new channel.
That's
and I know
amazing to get 200 subscribers in 2 weeks. That takes few people. Sometimes like people never reach that, or like takes like a year or two. Like that's pretty crazy already.
Yeah. So it's like, I know that I'm going to get close and that's going to be fine. And I've kind of like rearranged the goal in my head of, hey, by the end of this month, can my new goal be, can I feel like uploading 1 long form video and 7 short form videos per week? Can that feel easy or easier than it does now? So that's kind of like a new like sub goal that I'm working towards.
Yeah, making the actual process easier. And for those listening out there, like quick shout out, like Asra, Live Joyfully Design, Shrek Lover, Dr. Amy is a Beautiful Brain. Like if you're watching this or listening, make sure you subscribe and help like watch a lot of Aprilynne's videos, share them, especially if your friends want to learn about YouTube. Like with yeah, that whole process thing, like I was laughing so much when you were talking about YouTube Studio, because now that my day in the life of a Goldman banker, you know, I think it has like 90K views now, which is like way more than
amazing.
My best performing video was like this Casey Neistat course review. It was like 2,200 views, and I was so excited. So this one's blown away all those other things. But I think one of the things I kind of knew about, but I didn't know what it would feel like until it happened, was like the pressure. Like what you're talking about now, my expectations are like, oh, like I don't want to release a clunker that kills my momentum and kills the opportunity. And how long is this going to last for? And so I've been checking my YouTube studio way too much. So I had to delete it because I instead of like finishing my script and shooting, I was like checking my YouTube studio like 3 times an hour, It's like, okay, this is not healthy. You got to change it up.
Yeah. And like, I mean, I had one of my long form videos on my new channel start to get picked up a little bit. I think it has over 2,000 views now, which is awesome. Again, like a brand new channel. I've only been alive for 12 days. But like, as soon as I started like the graph starting to do this, I was just like, okay, refresh. And just like losing so much time to that. And, again, like being aligned to this goal, like in my head, I'm like, okay, this video can get me there. So this video has to keep doing this. So as soon as I see that slope kind of start to flatten again, it's like, all of my hopes and dreams are shattered. And it just feels so bad. It's like, no, let's just stop it. Just stop it.
Yeah, I talked about this with Kay Choi a few weeks ago on the podcast, where she's a consultant and like vlogger. And she's had a few videos that got like 1 or 2 mil, like I think 1.5 million views. Like she's got a few viral videos. And I was asking her how she handles that, the crazy ups and downs. And her advice was like, I think it's tough for any human being to kind of get so much happening at once and then it's stopping all of a sudden. Like, so for her, like what helped me was like, I was like, oh yeah, like she tries never to get lost in the numbers, and she just keeps focusing on what's fun for her. And like, when I look at her channel, it was super inspiring because she's made videos for like 7 years, and you can tell she's just having fun, and she's not like putting on all this crazy pressure that I know I've done to myself, like it's happening to me this week. I'm supposed to put out this pros and cons video, and I'm like procrastinating because I've all the expectations are but slowly like kind of letting those slide off it feels good.
Yeah. And like, I think like a big thing is just like being able to get excited about the next video that you make is huge. Like I have a goal now first of my new videos, because I work with an editor, and the same editor that I worked for with my last channel. And like in our process for a couple of videos, like in his notes, because he works in a team, he was like, this is a really cool video concept and we can do it this way. And like, he's excited about it. Now I'm like, okay, I want to make like more cool videos that he also thinks is like cool enough to like write a note that says, this is really cool. So I just think the entire process is just better when you're excited. And this again, like goes way back to the beginning when we were talking about alignment. Like, if you're not excited about what you're doing, then eventually the meh turns into dread. And once you're in this feeling of dread, it's so hard to break out of that and find excitement again, which is why like maintaining excitement for as long as you can, and hopefully doing so forever, being consistently excited. Again, it's just like, it's super OP, it's super overpowered when it comes to content creation, and I believe like being successful in content creation.
Yeah, I was just watching, I'm on the Creator Now community, and Yes Theory, Thomas he's going over how to pick ideas. And the first slide was like the worst thing that can ever, it was this quote from MKBHD. It's like, the worst thing that can ever happen to you is if you make a viral video that you don't want to make again. And I literally saw that like today, right? Like after we talked yesterday and right before this, I was like, oh man. But I think Thomas's approach, it's really refreshing to hear, because he talks about, like there was this point in Yes Theory's life where we really needed money, and there was a sponsor that came to us, but it just wasn't aligned with our whole mantra of like seek discomfort. So we turned it down. And like, yeah, hearing how he kind of could stay focused on why he originally started his YouTube was like super inspiring, and it kind of reminded me of what we're talking about now, and kind of your whole journey too.
Yeah.
Well, can you take us through like with like what is a day or a week in the life like as a full-time YouTuber?
Yeah, that's a good question. I have like a content calendar. I'm gonna bring it up over here on the side. It's like for my content calendar, I want to create 1 long form video and 7 short form videos per week. And that's a lot of content. That is a lot of content to be producing. So I have like a content calendar that I try to stick to as well, like as strictly as I can, to be able to keep up at this pace. And so for me, like on Monday is when like I ideate my long form video. I prep my long form video. For me, prep means doing the keyword research for it, figuring out my title, drawing some inspiration for my thumbnail, and answering those like those 7 questions that I mentioned earlier. Then I'll ideate my 7 shorts, just like come up with like, okay, like what are some topics of shorts? Then I'll script my 7 shorts. And that is Monday. And then on Tuesday, I'll start scripting my long form video. On Wednesday, I'll finish scripting my long form video. I will annotate it for my editor, which is like going back through the script and like mentioning things I want to happen, that I want my editor to execute. Then I'll film all of my short form videos. On Thursday, I'll edit all of my short form videos. So I do edit all of my short form videos myself. On Friday, I'll film my long form video, and send that to my editor. And then I'll also try to like write a Twitter thread as well and get that scheduled. And then the weekends are for like catching up on the work from the week, because I rarely ever follow that exact structure. So just try to like catch up. So at the very least, at the end of the week, I would have done all of the work to have produced 1 long form video and 7 short form videos. That
is crazy that you can do long form and 7 shorts in 1 week. Well, you said so when you're on that Friday where you're editing, are you actually editing the A cut, or do you mean you're kind of like just giving the script to your editor and then you like have them kind of take it from there?
Yeah, so I edit all of my short form videos, but my long form video, I just send the raw footage to my editor and the annotated script, and any like B-roll that I have to film or any other like assets or screen recordings or anything, I'll send that to them as well.
Oh, so because I noticed like with your videos, they look so good, right? Your screen presence, just like the structure, it's so clean, the hooks, and then the animations, like how much of it is that like your editor kind of doing their thing versus you being like, okay, here I want this to pop and have this kind of bubble as sound effect, and here I want this to be like a slide in, and like.
Yeah, I think it's a mixture. Like my editor is awesome. They're also very expensive. Like they recently, like I think last month, they doubled their prices. And so it was a really big decision for me to be like, do I go and find a different editor, one that I can afford, or do I stick with this one because they're just so good? And so far I'm sticking with them, but we'll see how long my bank account can hold on for. But like, I feel like I work really well with my editor, because when I go into a video, often I do have a vision for like, hey, I want this to go here. I want this to go here. Not for the entire thing, but for like some of like the main things. As I script it, I think in my head, this is what I want this section to look like, or I want an animation to go here. So like I have a new video coming out and I have like a full vision for the hook. Like, okay, I want this to happen. So I do give pretty detailed annotations And my editor knows how to follow them, which is so awesome because like they know me and they know how to do the rest of the video so that it fits really, really, really well. It's like they take cues from the comments that I do give, and then they also extend that like through to the rest of the video to make it all seem like very cohesive. And like sometimes they'll just like do things, and I'll get like back the frame.io and I'll be watching it and I'm just like gasping because of how good something is. So I don't want to take the credit because my editors are awesome. And I do believe that a large part of it just comes from like how well we're able to communicate and how well they're able to understand me when it comes to like what I want in certain places.
How long did it take to kind of
great.
get that chemistry? Because I've trialed a few editors, and my shorts editor, we've gotten to a good place where I don't even have to give comments. And it's like I know it's going to be what I want. But with I've struggled with having that chemistry with like a long video. So I'm curious how long that took you.
It took a while. I think I got to a good midpoint around video like 3 in my old channel with them, which is like, okay, like this is pretty good. It's not like exactly perfect or wow in any way, but it's pretty good. And I also like changed my style a lot since then, right? And then now with my new channel, like there are only 5 long form videos that are live right now, but a 6th one's already done. A 7th one is almost completely edited, and an 8th is also already filmed, and I'm working on the 9th one. So I'm like very like far ahead. And I'm like for like the 6th video from them this time around is starting to get to like, this is exactly what I wanted. This is everything and more. So it did take some time, even after working with them before with this new channel shift and other things as well. And I guess like since they raised their prices, I also had like a higher expectation of quality as well. So things that I were fine with before is like, nah, this
Yep.
won't fly now. If I'm paying you this much money, this needs to be perfect. But we're now getting to a point like around video 6 is like when we've settled into like, this is good.
Wow. So like 6 videos on the new channel. How many on the NFT channel? Was it like a lot or just
no, it was only 3 in like the old channel to get to a point where like this is pretty good. And they also like improved with every video too. So yeah.
That's inspiring to know that it is possible to find a great collaboration. And like, well, are you even notating? Like, you're like, okay, zoom cut here. And then do you basically give like specific music and B-roll, and then that's like the first draft, or do you kind of iterate it? Yeah, because that's something I've been struggling with too, is like how to get to minimize revisions just so it saves everybody time, but it's kind of hard.
For zoom cuts, like I have nothing to do with the zoom cuts. So the way my editing team is framed is like one guy does like the A cut and like the zoom cuts, I think, and then the other guy comes in with like the visuals, and animations and other stuff. So when I get, and like how they do it is the main guy Joey, he'll do the A cut, then he'll send it to Nick, the other guy, and then Joey will review it again after Nick, and then Joey will show that version to me, and that is the V1 that I see. And that V1 is, again, like it looks pretty good already, and then I'll have like maybe like 10 comments that I'll add to that, and then I'll come in with a V2, and the V2 is like near perfect. There might be like 1 or 2 things that I catch, and then we're good.
Whoa, wait. So, but are you notating the B-roll and music like in the first script, and then they just edit that for V1?
Yeah. So, so like I'll if I film my own B-roll, which I do sometimes, I will like note that in my script, like, okay, use B-roll 1, use B-roll 2, use B-roll 3. Of course, it's completely unedited B-roll, so they do all of that too. I don't give them music, which is it's taken us some time to get to the point where like we're good on music, because they'll do things and I'll be like, I don't like it, and then they'll try something else and it gets better, but I still don't like it. We're finally getting to a point now where I'm like, okay, we're starting to get the vibes with me, but music is so hard. Yeah, but like I basically just give them all of like the raw materials, right? Like the script, the B-roll, the pictures, and then I'll put again like notes of if I had like an idea of like, hey, I want some sort of cool custom title screen for each of these things that relate to the concept of editing in some way. And then they'll do that. Or sometimes I'll like draw inspiration from like other people's videos. And I'm like, okay, when I do this, I want it to look like second 42 in this other video from Ali Abdal, right? And so like they'll be able to take things like that. And yeah, that's overall what the process looks like.
Wow. Yeah, thanks for sharing that, because your videos just look so good, and it's super cool to hear that you have this system that like allows you to pump out really high quality videos without like spending 26 hours. Like, because I've definitely been there. Well, how long does it take you to like write and shoot? Is that usually like, I know you mentioned that you do it on certain days, but like how long does it actually take generally? Like,
yeah, script writing is the longest. Filming is by far the shortest. Like, I can film really easily because I already have this like studio thing set up. My camera's already set up. All I have to do is just like turn on my lights, turn on my camera, put my script up, and then I can start filming. I think filming like a 15-minute video might take me like an hour and a half to 2 hours start to finish. More or less depending on how in the zone I am at that point. Scripting, on the other hand, that takes me a long time. Maybe like 10 hours to script.
I'm not surprised, because your videos are like super sharp. Like,
yeah, I mean, I have a video that I filmed last week that I'm super excited to release. It won't come out for a few weeks, but it's about the neuroscience of YouTube, like the science behind how to make good YouTube videos. And I like get super deep into like the neuroscience of attention and the psychology of persuasion and like so many other concepts. And it was just like, that was just a fun video to write. And it's like, I had to like research a lot too. And I used Chat GPT, to help me with the scripting of that video, because trying to like go through research papers about neuroscience myself would have taken a lot longer versus being able to like use Chat GPT as like an aid, as like an assistant to help me through all of this. It helped cut down the process a lot. Like, so, but that video took me 3 days to finish. 1 day of doing preliminary research and creating an outline with the help of Chat GPT. Day 2 to start scripting, and day 3 to finish scripting.
Nice.
So,
well, how did you use Chat GPT? Were you just like, you had them do the first outline, like, hey, write me a YouTube script for this neuroscience of YouTube, or did you have your outline and you're kind of like filling in? You're like, okay, I need an example of a persuasion research. Like, yeah, I'm curious, because I haven't really used Chat GPT yet, but I do definitely want to like use it as a tool to be more creative.
Yeah, and I want to make a Twitter thread and a video on this topic, because I think it's really interesting. But I actually have I have 2 ChatGPT 4 conversations going. One is named Alice and one is named Clara. Alice, I wrote to be my YouTube producer / manager. So it's like, she helps me go through like my niche and helps with like video ideation. And like once we come up with like a set video idea that she'll help me like further refine that idea to the point of, like I'll give her my 7 questions, and then I'll ask her to like, okay, like fill in these 7 questions for this topic. And then I will take that and I'll make my own changes, and then I'll give that to her as like, okay, these are the answers to these 7 questions. From that and this video topic, can you create an outline? And so then she creates an outline based on the video topic, based on like who the character is and what they want and what the transformation they need to receive is, and all of that. Then I make some tweaks. And then I take that outline and give it to Clara, who I have written to be my writer. And then with Clara, I go step by step over like each part of the outline. So first, let's work on the hook. And I'll give her examples of my previous hooks that I've written, so that she gets a sense of like what my voice is. And then like, okay, after that, let's move on to section 1, which she knows from the outline that I worked on with Alice. So it's like a whole thing.
Well, how come they need to be two personas? Is it because you're training them differently?
That's my thought. It's like, I want like the conversation with Alice to be more so like focused in on the ideation and like the direction of the channel, versus Clara, it's more so just on writing, like just on script writing only. So like the information that I give them, that I feed them to like learn, is a little bit different.
That is so cool. Because I've definitely wanted to explore, like, yeah, it's like, oh man, coming up with better titles, coming up with better scripts. Like, I love how you've personified each of them, and you have like an AI team.
I do. Okay, and that was the goal, because like I was doing some journaling the other day and about like what I want in 2026 Aprilynne to look like, and what I wanted her life to look like. And a lot of the goals related to my YouTube channel, which like involved, like I wanted to have like a small team around me to help support the YouTube channel. And like based off of like everything that I wanted from my 2026 self, I thought, okay, what are some like behaviors or things that I can do right now that can help me get there, that are close enough? I was like, okay, obviously I can't afford to hire a full team, but I do have my editor, and I can like start to like treat him a little bit differently and work with him in a different way. You show him analytics and other things, and try to schedule more calls with him to see if we can like become closer. And Chat GPT exists. Like, can I like replace some of who I want to be, like who I want to work with later on, but turn them into AI for the time being?
Oh, this is like next level boss moves right here. Your AI team.
Yeah, I really want to make a video about this, but my concern is I don't want an AI video to blow up.
You're the
I don't
AI
want
girl.
AI channel. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. But well, if it does well, it'll be. I will write it so that it is very in line with what my niche is, and very intentionally like, hey, this all comes back to what I'm doing. So that if it blows up, the people who like it will like my core content as well.
Yeah. Like, so Thomas in the Yes Theory, he was saying if this worst case nightmare happens where a viral video goes off on a topic you're not into, like someone was asking, what do you do? And he's like, you just move on and go back to your normal scheduled programming. So that gave me some comfort. I was like, okay, you can do any topic. You just go back, and worst case is you unlist it, like if it gets too crazy. Well,
yeah, for sure.
With your YouTube, like I noticed that everything you do looks very visually appealing. Like you have this aesthetic, like, and I know you people were paying you for Twitter banners. Like, how did you come up with that sense of taste and design? Because I think a lot of us YouTubers, especially ones that are making our own thumbnails, like, Ollie talks about either you use a template with some color theory going on, or you or don't try to be a designer if you're not. Like, so sometimes I feel like, oh man, I think my thumbnails are like, they look like I'm trying to be a designer, but your thumbnails actually look really well designed. Like, how'd you learn that?
Well, long story short, I've always been an artist. Like, I've been drawing, sketching. I took private art lessons when I was in school for like 5 years. I'm primarily an oil painter, so very different from like digital illustration. But I kind of like understood shapes and colors, like from just like being very artistic as a child. So now, like when I made my Twitter banner, like my first Twitter banner, I was like, how do I do this? I had been using Figma because I had been designing the like landing pages for my first startup way back in the day. And for some reason, Figma just really made sense to my brain. The idea of like vectors and like, everything is a shape. Like literally anything is a shape. And just like amount of like putting all of like the shapes together, which makes like the big picture. So when I was making my Twitter banners, it felt like art to me. And I was like, oh, like I'm painting, but I'm painting digitally. And that's kind of like what it felt like. So I got pretty good at using Figma from developing Twitter banners. And then after that, when it comes to like my YouTube channel, I don't know. I think I'm just like, I like pretty things. And I think I'm pretty good at making pretty things. So it's just like, I don't want to like say like, oh, I'm just good at it. But kind of like, I just kind of have a sense of when things tend to look good versus not. That's not a great answer. It's not a very helpful answer.
No, I get it. It sounds like you're an
but it's
artist.
honest, I think.
Yeah, if you're being honest, you just kind of have it. Well, it sounds like you're an artist naturally, and then you took classes and you've tried to train your eye too, and then you've done it a lot. As well as kind of have it. Like it seems like there's a lot of nature, but some nurture too, which is encouraging. Mm-hmm. Well, kind of like shifting gears to monetization. Like, do you have any advice for new creators on how to think about monetization broadly? If it's within sponsors, like how to best reach out or negotiate with sponsors?
Sponsorships can be really, really, really tricky because one, I would say be careful of taking sponsorships too early. In fact, like I've even received the advice to not even think about sponsorships until you have 100,000 subscribers.
Wow.
Now, I did not follow that advice. In my old channel, my NFT channel, I was able to make crazy money off of sponsorships because there's just so much money in the NFT space and everyone just wanted to push everything. Mm-hmm. So I was able to make a lot there, even as a small YouTuber. But when you're super small, I would if it were me, I wouldn't take a sponsorship if I was under 10,000 subscribers. Because I think at that point, all of the focus should just be on growing your channel and building up more trust with your audience. Whenever you do start to think about sponsorships, make sure that it aligns with you and that you're not going to be breaking your trust. The number one currency in YouTube is not views, it's not subscribers, it's trust. So if you lose that trust, it's game over. Everything's done. And you have to be very, very careful about what kind of sponsorships you accept. Because if you break that trust, you're done. I've never actually reached out to someone being like, hey, can you sponsor me? It's always been inbound for me just because of like the crazy niche that I was in. But in general, I've heard that it's a good idea to like do outbound and offer, especially if there's like a company that you love and you use yourself and you would love to promote in some way, shape, or form. When I did sponsorships too, I always merged it into a way that made sense with my videos. So, if there was like an NFT collection that was sponsoring me, I wouldn't just have like a segment of like, this is an ad read for CryptoKitties, right? It would just be, oh, this is one really interesting thing that they do with their collection that's a concept. And I relate the concept as like an example in the overall video about a topic related to that. So I would like ingrain it into my video really, really well so that it doesn't even feel like an ad. It doesn't feel out of whack. It feels much more ingrained. Sponsorships are just tough, man. It's tough to get paid what you're worth. And it's tough to not feel like you're a sellout when you're doing them. So then the other option for the traffic is make your own products, make your own personal products, and like direct people there. Make your own stuff. And there are like a lot of options that you have there. There are physical products, anything from like merch, like hats and t-shirts, to like notebooks or keyboards or something else related to your niche. There are digital downloads. Like if you are a cooking channel, could you create a digital cookbook and like sell that potentially? There are like full courses that you can make. That's the route that I went as well. There's like a lot of other options there. So
yeah,
monetization.
Yeah. I was listening to the Q&A today with P2IA actually about sponsorships, and it's it's always good to just hear that reminder. Just make sure it's aligned. It's helpful for your audience. It's helpful for the brand, and it's something you can stand behind. Like what you're saying with the trust factor. That's cool. Like you're talking about courses, because I know you just launched your course and you've made like $10,000 already. Like, can you kind of like any advice on how to just launch a course that people actually will sign up for? Because I know a lot of creators, it's tough to actually not just make the course, but get people to be interested, excited. Any advice there? And I guess at what point would you say it makes sense to launch a course, like in terms of size of audience and things like that?
Yeah. Okay. I'll answer the first question first, which is like, how can you launch a course that people are actually interested in? I got a little bit lucky in that the course started because someone paid me money to build the course, which is the best way anything can ever start. But that was because I had been doing like a guest workshop in someone else's community for a while. That guest workshop was on the topic of getting started on YouTube. Eventually he asked me, hey, can I pay you $5,000 to pre-purchase a license for my community to have access to that course forever? But then it's also yours to be able to sell and do whatever you want with it. I was like, yeah, sounds great. Some like a way in which people can replicate this without having this whole relationship going on is, can you do like small doses of your content? Can you maybe do small workshops for your content? Maybe start with small free workshops and then go into like small paid workshops. And if no one comes to your paid workshops, maybe they don't view the value as valuable enough for that. I would also say that it's like you need to like be able to talk to your audience and see what they want. And if you don't have an audience, where can you find an audience? See if you can talk to people who are interested in the topic of what you want to teach and what are they interested in. I've seen people do like a complete like free beta. So they build a course and they say, hey, I'll let 10, 15, 20 people take this course for free, but in return, you have to give me feedback on this course. And then they're able to like take that and iterate a lot on that until they like launch the course for real. When they're doing that, they already have a ton of testimonials from all of their beta users. That's worked out pretty well for a lot of people that I know. Something that also helped for me a lot, I implemented a tiered pricing. So like the first 15 seats that were sold in my course went for $99 each. The next 15 after that were for $129. The next 15 after that were at $159, and it kept increasing from there. So it did kind of create this idea of scarcity, which is awesome when it comes to like marketing anything, because then for any particular person at any particular time, it's always the best time to buy because the price is only going to go up from there. And then people feel rewarded and good about themselves if they got in early and now the price is like much higher than what they paid for, and they're like, yeah, I won, right? So that also helped with me get like the first sales like that. Something that really helped for me too is like getting a lot of videos ready and done before I launched my new YouTube channel. I think like having like a specific launch date helped a lot. because then I could like start to build up like a bank of videos for that. And then by the time I launch, now I'm like 3 or 4 videos ahead, both with like three or four long form videos and like a whole bunch of short form videos as well. So that's like now that I have all those videos up, I feel a lot better about doing more content and making more content because I know like, oh, I'm ahead and I get to stay ahead.
So I recently got monetized, and this is probably a question people like new monetized channels have. Like, how many mid rolls do you usually put in?
I don't really touch the mid roll. Honestly, it's like whatever YouTube puts in automatically, I'm like, cool, done. I mean, I try to keep all of my videos at least 8 minutes long or longer so that I do have at least one mid roll ad in the middle. Besides that, whatever the default is, I'm good, which maybe I shouldn't be doing, but I don't really optimize for that very much.
Got it. And like just kind of going to another, touching on one of your other superpowers, like I think it's really, really interesting to see how you've grown your Twitter like to 19,000 followers. And then because of that, you're able to launch your YouTube for Beginners course and you're able to get all these pre-sales. Like, so you've built a community of people that are like, you guys have similar interests, like you've built a lot of trust and have been able to help a lot of people through Twitter. Like, I guess, what would be like, I guess 3-ish pieces of advice you would give to someone that wants to grow a Twitter following?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I have to like go back into my Twitter days and thinking about what I did there. Now, honestly, subscribe to Twitter Blue. It sucks, but it's kind of necessary if you want to grow an audience on Twitter. 2, really, 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 really work on your bio in like your profile. Your profile matters a lot more on Twitter than it does on YouTube. Because if you think about the flow of like how a new person is going to like find you on Twitter, they're never going to find your tweets organically, like pretty much ever. If you're brand new, instead, it's like you're going to comment something interesting on someone else's tweet. They're going to say, this is an interesting tweet. And then they're going to like scroll over your profile picture. So the profile picture is what they see first attached to your tweet. So that has to be something that looks somewhat professional or friendly or whatever that you're going for. You're going to scroll over that and there's going to be like a little display that comes up which shows your bio. So your bio has to be interesting enough for someone to feel like they want to click on you. So you have to really, really, really work on your bio and show like, don't just talk about yourself, but talk about what you tweet about, like what your content is. Then after they click on your profile, they're going to see your banner. So that's like, the first impression there, whatever your banner is. And they're going to scroll through like your pinned tweet and the first couple of tweets that are on your timeline. So your pinned tweet should optimally be something that shows some sort of credibility. So like your best performing tweet or like your best tweet in your opinion, or a tweet that's representative of the type of content that you create. When you're just starting out, I would recommend doing 1 thread per week, tweet every single day, and comment on other people. What worked for me wasn't commenting on like the people who had like 50,000 or 100,000 followers on Twitter, but I was really looking for the people who had like 2,000 to 3,000 followers on Twitter. So I would follow them within like a similar niche because their own community is going to be a lot smaller. So the people who are commenting and seeing their tweets are going to be more likely to be open to making more connections and meeting new people and making more friends and following more people. So you start to become like an active community member and some people in your niche with like the 2,000 to 3,000 follower mark, whilst also creating your own content. Then that's kind of like how you can get from 0 to probably like your first 500 to 700 followers. And then after that, focus much more on your own content and also commenting more, but perhaps like moving up from the 2,000 to 3,000 to maybe like 5,000 to 6,000 people. And then you'll start to get like your first 1,000 followers. And once you've gotten your first 1,000 followers, then the rest of them are easier.
Wow. Twitter masterclass right there. And are you hashtagging every time or?
No, don't use hashtags on Twitter. Hashtags on Twitter don't work. Hashtags on Twitter, because like people aren't searching for hashtags on Twitter. They don't find things that way. There are Twitter topics, but Twitter topics, if you show up on Twitter topics, it's not because you had a hashtag, it's because like the words that you actually said in your tweet. So you don't ever need to use hashtags. Hashtags just look like kind of spammy and scammy on Twitter. So don't use hashtags.
Well, see, because I've been tweeting about like creator tips, or like I'll summarize something I learned from Film Booth or a Q&A with like Dom Ely or something. But I feel like it's not really like, how do tweets get discovered? Is it you just have to drop a fire tweet that's like mind blowing, or it's like you just have to be consistent and somehow it'll get picked up by the.
So the way that tweets get blown up is the more people who interact with your tweet, the more people who see the tweet. Let's say you tweet something and I like your tweet. Likes are a bad example. Let's say I comment on your tweet, right? Then now all of my followers on their homepages are going to see Aprilynne commented and then see my comment to your tweet. So now all of my followers are seeing your tweet. Those are more impressions. Now, if they also engage with your tweet from that, they like or they comment or they retweet, then all of their followers are going to see that as well. Very simplified, not all of them.
Got it.
All of my followers don't even see my tweets, like my own tweets. But that's kind of how it gets picked up. So the banger tweets, the ones that picked up, are the ones that most of the people are engaging with. You have a very high engagement rate on that tweet, and therefore it's being shown to more and more and more people.
Got it. Thanks, Jim, for coming in. So I'm back on the tweeting on the like Twitter threads. Do you have to do anything special besides just adding a new thing, and then you just do like my top 5 tips on this topic, and you go 1, 2, 3, like?
Yeah, I mean, like a thread is like you have to really, really, really focus on your hook, because that's like what shows up on your thread, and then whenever you have that, and then when you're still in the draft form on Twitter, just press the plus and then do all your things. And then what usually shows up on people's homepages is the first tweet and like the last 2 tweets in a thread to make sure those 3 are good. You have to like click into it to see all the other ones.
Got it. Thanks for that. Ollie always talks about getting on Twitter, and I've been on it like here and there, but it'd be nice to. It is a kind of a nice way to just shoot out a helpful thought without having to make like a 10-minute video. So
yeah, the tough thing is that you really, really, really need to be consistent on Twitter. Like they ding you if you miss even like a day. So if you want to grow on Twitter, you need to be tweeting every day.
Oh my God. Okay. Got it. And then so just kind of like zooming back out to YouTube, like you talked about, like if you could go back, like what helped you blow up was you're consistent. You had really catchy titles, thumbnails, like really good editing. You were talking about a trending topic like NFTs. Like, is there anything else, like any other advice you would give to a new YouTuber starting out today? Like, what would be any other top advice?
Yeah, I can say something that I did for my own channel this time around that I was very intentional with, that you may have not heard of before, is I launched my channel with 4 long-form videos already up. And I did that to help my watch hours, because my thought process is, hey, if I launch my YouTube channel and someone finds one of my videos, I don't want them to just watch that one video and stop. I want them to watch that one video and then have the opportunity to go on a binge and watch a number of YouTube videos. And that helps get my watch hours up. So if you're trying to get monetized, do whatever you can to create binge-worthy content. Create like a smooth CTA, like a smooth transition into a call to action to watch another one of your videos. Because you want to like take the viewer on like a journey through all of your videos and watch all of them. So that's kind of like, again, like why I launched my channel with 4 long-form videos already up, which I haven't seen a lot of, but it's been really helpful for me.
Yeah, getting that session time up. I noticed that with my my trio of investment banking videos, like the people that watch the day in the life video, like the end card rate, clicking to the my golden resume, and then the end card to my like the cross promotion is pretty crazy. I was like, wow, I guess this is what happens when you have a really like high demand and niche that, and it all connects. Like, So okay, so getting the session time up, and would there be like one or two things you wouldn't do or you would avoid doing as a new YouTuber?
Don't be annoying. Like whilst in Twitter, you 100% need to be commenting on other people in your niche, like and commenting like value added things to them. That's not the case on YouTube. So it's like you don't need to go and find other people who are small in your niche and start commenting on all of their videos in order to get views on your videos. It's a lot better just to put all of your focus and energy into your own videos. Now, if you want to engage with other people in your same niche because you want to make friends and maybe like collaborate in the future, totally. But don't comment as a way to try to get your own subscribers. It doesn't work like that, like it does on Twitter.
Got it. Just avoid the sub for sub technique.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a good one.
And also too, it's like the first time around, I just like plugged my YouTube channel and YouTube videos to anyone who would listen. Now I'm much more selective with the subscribers that I have. Like, I don't want people to subscribe to my channel if they're not going to watch my videos, because all that's doing is just bringing down my click-through rate when I have a new video come out and it's on their homepages. If they're not interested in my niche, I don't want them subscribing to my channel, which is like a very different philosophy I have this time around than the first time I started my channel.
That's so cool to see you do a V2 with everything that you've learned blowing up. Like, and then, yeah, that's really cool to see that, because it's kind of rare. Like, what would you say would be like the hardest thing about your whole creator journey?
Man, what's the hardest part about my creator journey? It's like, I think I have a couple of things in my mind right now. One is the finances are just tough, especially like because they're just so unpredictable. Trying to like just dealing with that is tough, and trying to think about like, okay, how can I follow my dreams while also paying rent? Related to that, what I think is probably the actual hardest thing about the creator journey is being willing to like drop ship, not drop ship, but like leave the boat that you're on. It's really, really, really hard once you're in a niche to realize, hey, this isn't right, and like change directions. It's something that I talk about with my creator friends often. It's probably like the most common most common tough decision or most common challenge that creators tend to have is, I want to change my niche, but I don't know how. Or I want to change my niche, but I'm afraid that it's going to kill all of the momentum and growth that I have, or it's going to upset my subscribers or anything else like that. And I think that like it's happened to me a couple of times. And each time it's so hard because of the finances, right? It's like, okay, if you already have so much riding on your current content and you're barely able to like pay your way through life through that, trying to change things up is just like a really big risk, and it's hard. And there's no one to tell you what to do. It's not like, a different type of job where you have a boss and you always know, okay, this is what I should be doing because this is what is in like the SOP. Like, this is what my boss is telling me that I need to do. You never have anything like that. And what works for one person might not work for you at all. And so you're kind of just like in this amalgamation of, I think this is going to work. This might not work. I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm going to try to do this anyway. This worked, but I have no idea why this worked. Just like all of this stuff. And it's confusing and it's complicated, and you're never going to have all of the confidence in what might work yesterday, might not work today. And I'm rambling a bit now, but all of that, I think, is the hardest part of being a creator.
Yeah, yeah. And like kind of related is when would, from your experience, when do you know it's time to quit something versus change it up?
Yeah, like it's like to quit or to pivot. Make me or like to quit or to keep going. Like the best piece of advice that I've ever received or heard was quit early and quit often, because as humans, we have the ability to try out all of these different lives. But you can only really get to the next life after you've died in the past life. So if you think about all of the lives that I've had, I've been a chess champion. I've been an artist. I've been a hospitality oriented person who wanted to go into hotel ops. I've been a startup hire. I've been a Wall Street banker. I've been a founder. I've been an NFT YouTuber, and I was a founder again. And now I'm a YouTuber in a different niche. And like all of these are like the past lives that I've lived. And each one I get closer to the life that I actually want to be living. But I can only do that if I've died in the past life and have moved on to the point where I can get to the next one. So personally, for me, it's like, okay, if you're quitting because something out of fear, because it's hard and you're afraid that you won't succeed, try to push through. But if you're quitting because you feel out of alignment, quit. Cut your losses, move on to the next thing, because there will be better things.
And what are the signs of being out of alignment? Like, what are some questions that you would ask yourself? Or
yeah, a pretty straightforward one is like, if I were doing this or something very close to this 5 to 10 years from now, would I be happy? If the answer is no, then you're probably out of alignment. Because also just really pay attention to your energy levels too. It's if you feel yourself being drained slowly but steadily over time, the more that you continue to do something, you're probably out of alignment on that thing. If you feel yourself procrastinating a ton on doing something, it's probably because you're out of alignment. I mean, again, we all procrastinate on things, but I think there's a line between, I'm just procrastinating because I just want to lay on the couch right now, versus I'm procrastinating and I've been procrastinating for a long time on this thing, and getting myself to do this thing seems really, really, really hard. It means that something that you're doing is out of alignment.
I love that. And when you talk about letting go so that you can move on, for you, how do you know what to keep from your past lives versus and what to discard when you enter the next phase?
Yeah, I mean, I keep I keep what I learned that's related to my next thing. I don't think I can break it down very cleanly, but whenever I like to think that every time I die, I start back up with a list of, okay, what do I want to do next, right? And those lists of all the things, what am I good at? What do I like? What are all these things? I also like to make a list of things that I have learned, the things that I have learned from the past life. So when I quit NFTs, I made a large list of everything that I had learned from that past life. And so now I can always look back on that and be it wasn't all a giant disaster. Like I learned all of these things, which is so great. So like I kind of like I start from scratch every life. Like I don't not from scratch. I start from a clean slate with every life, but I use the past lives in order to fill that slate. If that makes sense.
Yeah, love it. Well, I just moving into the rapid fire. So what's your favorite piece of gear for YouTube?
My light. I have this little, I think it's like a Falcon Eye LED light. It's about this big, and I can bring it with me everywhere, and it just like lights up a wall, which is really nice.
Awesome. And 3 favorite YouTubers or YouTubers you like?
Ali Abdal, I think is awesome. Catherine Manning, I absolutely love. And who else? I really just watch those 2. Randomly, I'm going to say Disguised Toast. He's a streamer, but I loved his Among Us streams that he turned into YouTube videos. So those are my 3 most watched YouTubers.
I like it. Favorite book you've read in the last year?
Look. I mean, I read the Stormlight Archives from Brandon Sanderson last year, and I absolutely loved them.
Nice. Favorite podcast?
I don't listen to a lot of podcasts. Probably the Indie Hacker podcast from Cortland Allen.
Nice. And favorite course that you've taken in the last year?
In the last year?
Or 2.
I'm not going to say in the last year, but P2IA is my favorite course. Done.
Yeah, P2IA is so good.
It's just so
and
good.
If your house was burning down, assuming your family's all safe, like what 3 things would you grab first?
Okay. One gift that I have, which is Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn book. My boyfriend, for like our first date, for his first gift for me, he had like circled on every page a word or phrase that he thought would describe me. So it's like a very like heartfelt gift. I would bring that. What else would I bring? I'm like looking around, seeing what else would I bring. That's like the most sentimental thing that I have. I feel like everything else is pretty replaceable. I would bring my computer actually, because I do not have everything backed up. So if this dies, I'd be in big trouble. I thought I would bring my computer, and I guess it's like boring, but I'd bring my phone. I would need something to call 911 with.
Yeah, I can't live without the phone. And favorite YouTube comments that you've ever gotten?
It was probably from my old channel, which was just like, this is the best NFT video on the internet. Like that was just like very high praise. And it's my goal to get a comment like that, but related to my current niche now. And so like one of my videos in the future.
For sure. And what does success look like for you?
I have like a lot of things when I journaled like what my 2026 self looks like. But in a nutshell, it involves me being able to create value to the world in a way that interests and intrigues me, whilst having the flexibility to take off, any amount of time on any day.
I love it. And for a final takeaway, just for that one person listening out there today who's been following along with this conversation, like what's one thing that you hope they take away from this whole conversation?
Don't compromise what's in alignment for you. Like never compromise on your values and on like what you want to bring to the table, what you wanted to impart to the world. It'll only feel bad when you move out of alignment. But if you move in the direction of your alignment, even if it's hard at first, things will be better off in the long run.
Awesome. Awesome. And for if anyone out there wants to follow you on Twitter, subscribe to check out your content on your new YouTube channel, sign up for your YouTube for Beginners course, like what are like the best links, best ways for them to stay connected?
On Twitter, just at Aprilynne Alter. That's me. On YouTube, it's youtube.com/at Aprilynne Alter. Again, do not forget the at symbol. If you forget that, then you'll get linked to my old channel. And for the course, it's just aprilynnealter.com.
All right. Awesome. Anything else you want to share today before we wrap up?
Just don't be afraid to come and say hi if you want to. I promise I am somewhat friendly.
We hope you enjoyed our conversation. I've added all the links and resources we mentioned in the description below. And if you enjoyed that interview, you might like watching this one here. And if you haven't already, feel free to press here to subscribe. Have an awesome day.